All right, so now we've got player control and we've got game over. Let's do game win. I mean, not game win, but we'll do the scoring part basically of our code here. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so we are going to. I'm going to close out of this. I'll bring this back up in a second. I need to put my lines in here that are going to keep my score. So it's underneath the pipe section. And right here we have gap line anim. This time I'm going to choose the animation one. I'm just going to click and drag and make sure it is between these pipes. So I'm going to put this pipe up a little bit more because apparently that's what I decided. Oops. I'm going to hold shift so it stays like that. Okay, that's good. And then we'll just do another line right here. And we'll just pull this up a little bit more. Okay. And then pull this up. Good. Okay. So now we're going to have these to keep our score. I'm just going to go ahead and give them some names so that they are named so that we can use them in the code. And we're just going to call this guy gap 01. And we'll call this girl gap 02 because they shop at the Gap. Why it's called the Gap? It's kind of a weird name. Anyway, so we'll go window, actions, go to my actions frame, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're just going to keep adding to our frame one here. Hit the code snippets, and we're just going to do, okay. We're going to go to event handlers, and we're just going to go ahead and do another enter frame because just like before, I need to make sure that I need to test on every frame whether we hit it. I mean, we could probably be a little bit smarter about it because we would only be able to hit this on every whatever frame based on the animation, but it'd be math and stuff, and I'm not doing that. So we're just going to do enter frame event. So we're going to double click on that guy. Hopefully it pops over. Great, let's do it again. Double click. All right, let's try this again. Double click. Double click. Come on, you can do it. There it goes. Okay. Sorry, my computer is just having a hard time. Okay, so we're gonna call this I guess what did we call the other one? Okay, we'll call this gap collision. Gap collision. Although we're not really colliding. I'm just gonna copy this. Control C, and we're just gonna name that function gap collision. So basically every frame is going to test for that. We don't need all this bad code in here. That's not really useful. And it's basically going to be the same thing as this. We're just going to have it do different stuff. So we'll say if, not GIF. I don't know why. If, it's getting late. If player, capital P, sorry, player dot hit test object. And this time we're going to hit it against the gap 01. Okay. And we're going to have it run this bit of code here. It didn't give me a closing one. That's kind of weird. Okay. We're going to have it run this little bit of code. Okay. It's weird. Okay. We're going to have it run this little bit of code here, and we're going to have it do a couple of different things here. So, we're going to need a score. So we're going to go up the top here, and we are going to make a new variable that's just going to hold our score. So I'm going to do var, and we'll just call it player score, and it'll be an int, and it should initially be 0, right? Because they're not scoring. So yeah, player score, that's the name of it. So we're going to take that, just copy that so that I know that I'm doing the right thing here. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to say Control V. Player score is going to be, we want it to be player score plus 1. But we could just do plus equals. Oops. Did I put it? Okay. Plus equals 1. So what that's going to do is it's going to take whatever the player score currently is and then add 1 to it. Okay. Now the other thing I want to do is I need to have an object to put the score in. So we're going to go. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out of the way, and I need to put the text up there. So I actually put this game over text on there. I'm just going to go ahead and put the score text on there because that shouldn't have been on there anyway, but I just didn't really care. So we're going to go ahead and do another text. I'm going to keep it as the Comic Sans. Since we're already embedded it, might as well keep it all the same. So I'm just going to go to the top here, and we'll just click and drag. Come on, buddy. You can do it. There we go. And we'll just do score. comma 0. Okay, that'll be yay. Okay, and we'll just call this score text. All right, I need a name for it, and over here, so it's going to be score 0, and we're going to call score text. That's how we're going to interact with it and make sure it's dynamic text. It's already embedded, so I don't have to embed it again because it's embedded from before when we did the other one. If it was going to be a different font, I would need to embed that font, but I'm just doing Comic Sans because everybody hates Comic Sans. So, and it upsets people, and that pleases me. Okay, so we got player score. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and write the score out. So, basically, if we hit it, we're going to say, okay, take the player score, which it will start off with 0, and then add 1 to it. And then once it's 1, we'll add 1. So every time it hits gap 1, it's going to do that. But we also need to update the score text. So we're going to go ahead and make score text, because that was the name of the object, dot text. We want to change the text of that score object, which happens to be text anyway. But and we're going to go ahead and we want to give it the value of what did I call it? Oh, right here, this player score. So I'm just gonna hit Control V because I already have it there. Give it the value player score. Okay, and you might be like, good, it's all good, right? It's not. Here's the reasons why it's not. Okay, so kind of a weird thing. I've seen other languages that use this, but basically the idea here is this. This player score is what? An int. What's an int? It's a number, right? It's a whole number. Right, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3. It could be -1, -23, whatever. It could be all those things. You know what it's not? It's not text. And I know you're like, oh, but in order to write it out, it has to be text. Which, again, seems really stupid, but it's just one of those things. So what we need to do is we basically need to convert this player score to text. Okay? So we're just going to go ahead and in front of this, there's a built-in function, and it's just string quotes. Boom. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that int and write it as a string. And string is text. I know one can be, when we write one on your keyboard, that is text. But when it's in here, that data type is not something that's visible in that regard. So they're just different. So this will convert that player score to the text into text, and then also, and then make that. So it'll say 1, 2, yada, yada, yada. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and we will copy this. I'm gonna, just to make it small. Normally I like to write, actually, we'll leave it like this. I'm gonna copy this whole thing. This isn't gonna work. I mean, it is gonna work, but you're gonna see there's gonna be an issue, which I will show you what it is. So we'll do gap 2. So we have one for gap 1 and one for gap 2. Let's go ahead and Control-Shift-Enter. You should save while we're doing this too. I'm just not, because I'm keeping this as my starting file, and I need to, Okay. Yay. Okay. Great. Yay. Hey, look at that. I'm getting bonus points, guys. I accidentally hit the stupid object. Okay. So, obviously, the issue is, it's not giving me 1 point, it's giving me many. Because what's happening is that it's on enter frame. So, while my player is going through this, if he's touching it on all those frames, apparently it's taking 6 frames. He's touching it for 6 frames. So, for 6 frames, it's adding 1. So, I only wanted to do once. So, there's kind of we're just going to do a cheat, basically, to fix that. And that's going to be this. What we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, when you hit gap 1, what I want you to do is take the gap 1 dot y, okay, and I want you to set it to equals to a number. We're going to say 0. Okay. So what that means that as soon as it hits gap 1, it's going to take its Y position and it's going to shoot it up to 0. So to give you an idea, we're actually going to need to look at it so we can tell too. So make sure you're on the properties panel. I'm going to select it. Okay. So right now, if we look at its position, it's at 967.9. 0.55. So if it puts it to 1, what it's going to do is as soon as it hits it, it's going to go ahead and record that score and type it out. And then it's also, right after that, it's going to shoot it up so that it is pretty far up there, way up there. So it's going to hit it and it's going to go boop so that the next frame, it's not there to hit again. Okay? And you're going to be like, well, that doesn't help us later on. I'll show you how we're going to fix that. But that's what we need to do. All right? So we're going to shoot it off there. Then what we're going to do is on this one, the next one, when we hit gap 2, I'm going to tell gap 01, point Y, its Y position. I'm going to set it equal to where I want it to be. So if I have it selected, it's 967. We'll say I don't care about the 5.5. Okay, so 9, that's not a 9, 967. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is this. When I hit gap 1, as soon as I hit it, it's going to go +1 to score. Second thing it's going to do, it's going to go whoop. It's going to flop it up here. So then it's not there to hit anymore, right? And let's say I'm flying and I go in and hit this one. When I hit this one, it's going to take this from up here and put it right back to where it was so that when they come around again, it'll be there where I need it. You see what I'm saying? So basically, the first gap, when I hit it, it's going to shoot it up. And then when I get to the second one, it's going to shoot it back down so that when it comes around after the second one, because it's just going to repeat again, it will be in the right spot. Okay? And we're going to do the opposite for gap 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say gap 02 dot Y. I want to set that equal to, it's the opposite. So basically, we're going to reset where 02 would be. So this is actually the default. So it's 783. Yeah. Click on it. Okay, so 783 is what we need. So it'll be 783. But when we hit gap 2, I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the other one. I'm just gonna go ahead and send it to 0 to get it out of the way. So basically, you gotta remember this runs every frame. So on the first frame, it's gonna make the score and then shoot it up. So then on the next frame after, it's not there to score again. That's the whole idea. So dot, whoops. But we're gonna reset the position every time we hit the next one. So it's basically just a way of trying to solve it. There's other ways of doing it. This is just kind of a cheap fix. Okay. That looks good. Okay. So you just have to know what the numbers are. Obviously, you have to look them up and see what yours is probably going to be different. Yours will not be these numbers. Don't put these numbers in. You got to look and see, and then you'll know. So let Control and Enter. And here we go. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Yay, there's 1, 2. Apparently I hit the stupid thing, and it keeps making a score. I'm not going to do a game over screen and all that, because that's a whole nother thing, and I don't want this video to get too long. But more or less, I think that was everything I needed to cover. Yes. Okay, so more or less, that is the game. I do want to change one thing real quick, and that's this. I don't want to see these little gaps. So we're going to do, we could do this a bunch of different ways. I could actually take these gaps, and if I were to, wait a minute, why is that showing, oh, which one did I put those on? Oh, I put them on actions. They shouldn't have been there. Whoops. So I'm going to Control X on those, and then Control Shift V to paste in place. And then I'm just going to double check to make sure these still say gap 1. Good, they do say gap 1 and gap 2. Okay, so I'm going to make sure they're gaps. What I could do, it sounds kind of funny, is that if I took this and put it behind the background, it will still work. So this is probably the easiest way. But because it's behind the background, it will be behind that blue, and you won't see it, but we'll still hit them. So see how you don't see the gaps, but we can still make collision with them. If I was better at the game, I would have the game over, but we can still make collision. The other thing we do is that trick we did with the puppet, where if you select the... if I go to the actual gap line, I could select it here, select it, go to the properties, and just change the stroke color to nothing, so it's invisible. That's the other thing you could do. But I'm not 100% sure. I think that would still work. I don't know. But it's testing, I think, the object, so technically it should still work. Anyway. yeah, so that I think is everything. So now the game works. So what you're going to do is save it and then just upload it to Blackboard. So um, just save what you got. Maybe change the name so it says like Flappy Cone Finish, because that's usually how I do mine. You can see I have the finished one here. And you're just going to go ahead and so yeah, I'll just do it myself. Control Shift S, and we'll just save it as Flappy Cone Finish. And then just go ahead, and if you need to, I think it'll accept an FLA file, but basically just upload this and then I can test it, make sure it works. Feel free to change anything about it, like if you want to make more pipes or you want to change these pipes. I mean, some of it's pretty easy, so like you could just double click on this, double click on this, double click on this till you get to the graphic, change it to something else. Obviously, it's a green object, so I didn't really do much with it. And if you want to change the character or anything like that, I don't mind. You know what I mean? Like you would have written the code. The only thing I gave you at this point was the artwork. So change the artwork if you feel like it. Make it your own. And then later on, if you want to upload it onto the phone, like I was showing you before, you can do that. I will show you how to do that later on. I'm not going to show you with this one just because, again, I don't want to make it too long. This is just more as an intro to kind of Action Strip, trying to understand how it works. So you can see we did some of the same things that we did before, where we did. I try to use the code snippets as much as possible, just because I think that's a little bit easier. And then we just have to change the code a little, right? It gives you a starting point, and then we can kind of add little things and make it sort of work. So what we're going to do from this lab from now on is we're actually going to start making a platformer game, which is going to be, it's going to use some similar things. We're going to have gravity. We're going to have collision, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated. And we're going to make that in class, and then you'll make a game outside of class, which again will be more complicated. This will be the most complicated thing we do. Not this, but game design. Obviously, it should be. We're moving up the ladder there. But think about what you want to do for a game. In the next one, I'll kind of tell you what your options are. Basically, I made a whole a variety of tutorials that you can follow in order to make different game types. But that should generally cover it. So if you run into issues, let me know. Otherwise, good work, hopefully. And have a good day.